Okay, for this next video I'm going to do something slightly different. We're going to show you a combat between a Russian army and an Austrian army. Just show you the mechanics of it all. Now, first thing you need to do is find out which armies are involved. So it's the Russian 5th and the Austrian 4th, and then you go over to these supply tracks and make sure I've got enough ammunition to conduct an offensive at full strength. Now your attackers are considered to be the attacker, and the other side is considered to be the counter attacker rather than the defender. So we've checked these tracks and there's enough supply. There's more than enough supply on both sides to do what we want to do. So next thing you need to do is establish the actual hex that you're going to be fighting in, and which is this one here. And then you find out how many combat strength points are in each hex involved. So there's only 2 hexes involved. So if we look at this, we've written down the armies. We found out there's 19 strength points of infantry attacking and 2 strength points of artillery and 8 points of infantry defending. Now, supplies consumed at 1 supply point for each 4 attacking strength points, and one supply point for each 2 defending strength points. So the first thing we want to do is we're going to say, well, we've got a total of 21 here in the attack. We don't want to spend 6 supply points to attack with 21. It's just not really very effective. So I'm going to actually I'm only going to spend 5, and I'm going to activate my infantry. The artillery, because it hasn't been given any supply points, can't contribute to the attack. But any strength point that isn't actually fully supplied would count as half its face value. All right, so next thing to do is you work out what the strength points are going to be in terms of the attack and the counter attack. So we've got 19 attack points, and the defender can either be doubled if you're doing a fighting withdrawal, or we can or be tripled if we're going to counter attack from the actual hex we're in place. So we decided we're going to stand and fight. So that gives me a defense of the Austro-Hungarians of 24 strength points. You then roll a die. Well, next thing you actually do is check the terrain to see what terrain effects there are. Now this is a clear hex here, so there's no terrain effects. But if you went over and looked at the here, if I can find it, the terrain chart. This is annoying. Oh, there we are. Terrain effects chart. You can see that not only does different terrain have different movements, it can have combat effects on the attacker and combat effects on the counter attack. Okay, and they would be act as actual dice roll modifiers. Now I throw a dice for both sides, and I get a 3 for the Russians and 1 for the Austrians. As I say, there's no terrain effects, there's no modifier. So then go to the Russians and look at 19 on here, and look at the die roll for 3. It means I've inflicted 3 casualties. You look at the 24 for the Austro-Hungarians, and that's cross-referenced with a die roll of 1. It means they've inflicted 2 casualties on the Russians. So you write that down, and then you apply it to the units on the board. So for Austro-Hungarians, I'm just going to flick both units over onto their reverse side to to take the 3 casualties. The Russians, I just flipped over 2 units onto the reverse side to take the 2 losses. We then have to have a look at demoralisation. Now, the demoralisation tracks are really important because this represents the will of a nation to continue the war. Obviously, what will happen is the more and more these demoralisation points you accumulate, the closer you come to total economic and collapse loss of morale. So, because only infantry units have been killed, we simply move up the Russian demoralisation by 2. 1, 2. So you've got a total demoralisation of 20 for the Russians, and for the Austrians it's 3. So their total demoralisation is 29 at the moment.